Okay, so this is going to be the first 3D printing video. Today we're going to do basically how to maintain your 3D printer, just a rough guide sort of thing of what I do and what I like to do to maintain my printer and what I do on a regular basis as well. This one is a PRUSA Mk3s. This one's I think 6 months old, something like that. But I had a little problem with it recently, which you can see from this. This is called a layer shift. You can see where it started printing and it's moved over and started printing somewhere else. Came out quite bad. I think I know what the reason is, but we'll have a look when we go through it. But I thought this would be the ideal time to do a maintenance from it. So let's show you what we do here on International 3D Printer. Okay, so we're going to have a quick look today at my cleaning routine or maintenance routine for my printers. Now at the moment I've got 6 PRUSA Mk3s and 2 PRUSA Mk3s. I've also got an Ultimaker 2 Plus, an Elegoo Mars, which is a resin printer, and I've also got 2 PRUSA Minis on the way as well. But what I tend to do, the most maintenance needs to be on the Mk3s, which is what I have several of, and the Mk3s. I'm just going to call them Mk3s now because there's not a massive amount of difference between them. This one here is a Mk3s. I've had it about 6 months now. Not had any problems with it before, but as you can see, I've had this print, which is something that we manufacture and sell. And as you can see from here, this should be sat on top of here, and it's had what's called a layer shift. Now there's 3 types of layer shifts basically. There's usually something to do with the axis. It's either on the x-axis, the y-axis, or on both axes, which is called staircasing. Now this is done on both axes, and so I think this is a case of staircasing, but I don't think it's what's caused it is what would normally cause some layer shifting. I think personally it's because I had this on stealth mode because I was recording another video for a review channel for the review of a model, and I think because I switched on to stealth mode, it got to a point, and apparently they're renowned for this, the Mk3s. So stealth mode makes it quieter, not a great deal, but it does mean that the microphone doesn't pick all the noise up from the printer. So that's what I think it is. But I thought it was a great opportunity to do a video on how I maintain it, because I haven't done any maintenance on this for about 3 months, and I usually like to do every 3 to 4 months. I like to, basically strip my machines, make sure that, because they are hammering away 24/7, manufacturing our stuff for Ultimate Modding products, obviously. But as I say, with this as a layer shift, I think with most layer shifts, as long as you check the belts, you check the tensions on the belt, the motors and the pulleys, make sure the grub screws are done up and things like that, and the fact that there's nothing blocking the bed in any way, shape or form, like something from the hot end or some cable somewhere or anything like that. That's what will usually cause your layer shifts, because it just pushes the extruder one way or t'other, and it thinks it kind of rehomes itself without rehoming, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I think it's because of stealth mode, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little maintenance check on this just to make sure there's no screws loose or there's nothing else, no obstructions causing the print head to stop going in one direction or another, and what have you. So what we'll do is I'll try and make this as quick as possible because it can get quite boring. There will be a lot of bits where I'll just skip to music as you watch me. You can watch me do it at 2 or 3 times the speed or whatever, and then I'll stop at certain pointing points, and you can see and I'll explain what I'm doing at that point. Now I have like a little 10-step checklist, 10-step checklist that I do just in my head to maintain it. The first thing I do is I actually run it up on the heat. I run the nozzle up. So the first thing I do is I run it up on the power. So I've got a little electricity block on my desk here. I'll plug this in. Okay, and I make sure my workstation is completely clear when I do this. So turn it on. And, right, Right, okay, so she's on now, and what I do is I will heat up the nozzle because there will be melted plastic on there. So the first thing I do is heat up the nozzle and melt the plastic, and I think we'll cue music now. So, just a quick stop there. I always heat the nozzle up to 240. Mainly these print in PLA nearly all the time, although I am slowly in the process of maybe switching some over to a PETG. But I'll put it up to 240 because it thoroughly melts everything that could be on the nozzle. It heats up hot enough for that PLA and everything. And then what I do is then I turn the heat off and I let it cool down naturally. Now as it cools down, I get my tweezers, a pair of these, and I just pull all the plastic melted off plastic. The ideal temperature to get it to is around about 180, 175, 170, 180, because then it actually, you can just peel it off. It peels off with get hold of it and it's all solidified and peels off. But the big lumps I get off when it's really hot, as you'll see. Apart from that, it literally just cleaning and peeling the nozzle on the hot end, making sure there's nothing there. And then what we'll do first what we'll do before I go into the cleaning bit is I'll show you how I actually clean my nozzle. Okay, now to clean my nozzle I use these which are acupuncture needles, as you can see, readily available. I'll get mine from wish.com. They're €1 each. You can get them on Amazon and eBay and wherever you like. Make sure you get the right size for your nozzles. These are all for 0.4s. There's different types of acupuncture needles you can get. Some are good, some are bad. These are really good. If you get the ones with the little handles on, they're fantastic. I've got several others here, as you can see. Those have got handles on as well, and so have those. I've had some without handles and they're absolutely rubbish. Anyway, so back to this. It's heating up nicely now and we're at 240 degrees. Okay, so now you can see that the nozzle is, there is some plastic on there, which is from the, where we had this mess. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this off now. There's a couple of big blobs of it, and as you can see, it comes off reasonably easy. Okay, and gets a bit stringy where it's at 240, but I find just getting the big bits off when it's like this is the best way to do it. Okay, right, now what I'm going to do is, before we go any further, is get my acupuncture needle and I'm just going to pop it inside. But first of all, we've got to eject the filament that's in there. So I'm just going to move it over to unload filament, and out we come. So as you can see, we've unloaded the filament, and we've got it's actually a nice clean, not blobby or anything like that on the end, so that's quite nice. So what we're going to do, I don't think it's every now and then, I would probably say once every 2 weeks, I have to unblock the nozzle on, or not unblock, but it just gets a slight clog in it where it's going, where they're going 24/7. So every 2 weeks, I like to do this with the needles and everything, which is basically just you pop one of these acupuncture needles in, like so. Okay, and you'll find a little bit of resistance at first. Okay, where there might be just the tiniest bit dried on the tip or just around the nozzle or something like that. And sod's law, look, I can't get it into that. There you go. Okay, and you can see, feel that little bit of resistance. Okay, and even that nozzle's at 240. There we go. Okay, so it just goes to show that even there, when we're at 240, there was still some resistance getting that nozzle in. So there was some hardened filament around in the nozzle somewhere. So I'll give it a good play around with the acupuncture. You shouldn't abrade the needle too much at all, the nozzle too much at all. But you can take it out, give it a wipe, and then I'll just put it in one more time and give it a wiggle around. And there we go, Bob's your uncle. Okay, so that's that done. So now what I'll do is I will turn the heat off. So I'll just reset that, just click reset, or wherever your machine will do it. And then we'll wait for that to cool down a bit. And as it's cooling down, I'll carry on picking the excess stuff off. Right, and there you go. That is as clean as it needs to be. It doesn't need to be much cleaner than that, just as long as there's no droopy bits or anything that's going to mount down and glob down onto your print while you're printing. But it's definitely worth doing this because it's surprising how quickly all this builds up. And you only need to heat up once to do it, and then you should have enough time to do it. One thing I forgot to mention is when you do this, remember to try and not touch the pinder probe. If you're using a Mark III, if you're using some other like a BL Touch or something like that, because that will knock your first layer Z calibration out. So be very careful you don't knock that. So basically that's it. So now, I mean, this is down to 100 degrees now. I'll just then give it a quick wipe to make sure there's nothing else on there. Okay. My hands are still, I don't recommend you do this at all, but there you go. So we are good now. There's no residue left on that needle or anything. And I'm happy that once I put that on, that's going to be fine to print with. Okay, so let's zoom out again. All right. So next, once I've done the heat nozzle and cleaned it, and I've got rid of any possible clogs that might be there in the near future, I then move on to the gears, the filament feeder. Now this on the PRUSA, I use my little wow stick, which is a fantastic tool, and on the PRUSA it's very easy. You just undo one screw on the Mark 3s, two on the Mark 3s. You then open up the little door and Bob's your uncle. Now what we'll do is we'll turn it over. Now what I do now is I'll turn it off now. Don't need it on anymore. Don't need the electricity on, not now, not until a little bit later. But what we can do is we'll get this over so you can have a look at you can see if you can get into it and have a look at the gears. And fingers crossed, you'll be able to see this red dust that you see here. Now this is ground metal off of the gears, off the filament feeder gears. These are Bondtech. But I live in a very humid country. I live in Menorca, which is an island in the middle of the Mediterranean. So things go rusty very quick here. Now there's a quick easy fix to this. Get a air spray, can of air spray. Give it a good spray all round. I then move the teeth round on the Bondtech a little way, and I'll do that again. Just make sure I've got all that. Now that'll blow out the other side down to here, but as you can see already, that's a lot cleaner than it was. Now the next steps will be I'll just get a small touch of IPA, which I'll show you here. I'll just keep some IPA in a bottle. Just pop that in a little medicine cup in a holder so it doesn't get knocked or anything. And then what I'll do is I'll dab a cotton bud on there, like so. Just going to get rid of the excess. And then we'll just give that a quick spruce up inside. Just to make sure there's no more dust or anything like that in there. Give the wheels a good clean. Got to be careful with this stuff. These ones are quite crap. These are cheap and nasty ones. So try not to get it on the gears. Just give everything a clean around so there's no loose dust in there. IPA will dry reasonably quickly. Then for the gears, I've got these ones. Now these are Tamiya buds, which we sell on Ultimate Modern products actually. Now, these are hard cotton buds. They're rock solid at the ends. You can't do anything with them. So again, dip them with our IPA, and then you can clean each individual groove as you go. Okay, and you'll see all the crap come off of it. Now what I've started doing, once all this is cleaned, which I don't know if you can see this, but a little bit of dirt on the end of the thing there. Okay, and this will build up over time because obviously, I mean, the actual inner gear is quite clean. Any residue from your filament or anything like that might get stuck in the gears. Okay, so it's not too bad. So then what we want to do is actually clean the gear itself that holds the filament, which is this smaller one here. Give that a nice clean all the way around, and the same on the other side. Alright, I'll give it one more blast, and that'll dry the IPA off really very quickly. And now what you need to do is you need to add some lithium grease, and this will stop this rust coming back again. Okay, so with the lithium grease, this is the stuff I use. This was available on Amazon. It's just lithium grease EP2, which is perfectly fine for our use. You don't need a lot of this stuff, really tiny amounts. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit into this pan, and that's pretty much all you're going to need. Maybe a tiny bit more, and you really won't need any more than those two tiny little squeezes. This one tube of lithium grease will last you pretty much a lifetime for 3D printing. So then we get a cocktail stick, just a very normal cocktail stick. I like the ones here in Spain because they come with one end done and one end pointy, one end flat. So, and then all you have to do is literally take this, just mix it in with the little bit of oil that came out with it, and then just pop it on these gear bits here. Now you don't have to do every single gear, because every single cog, shall I say, because this will naturally spread itself as they go around, the more often they go around. Okay, now you don't want to overload it, but you don't have to be tight. This should not get onto the filament at all, because that's on this is the filament grip here. This is just the cogs that turn the wheels for the filament. So, and as long as these are okay, you're good. Okay, so that's one done. Now I'm also going to do a little bit on the bottom bit, but again you want to be careful down there because you're getting inside there and you don't want to get it anywhere else. And there you go, that's done. And as you can see from that teeny little bit of lithium grease, that's all we needed to do, nothing more. So we'll pop the IPA aside for in a minute, and that's that done. Okay, let's get rid of the dirty stuff so you don't use it again. And then what we need to do is just close up these gears. Let's take you out a bit. So literally is pop the screw back in. And you put your finger on the other side of the PRUSA and just screw in until you can feel the screw ever so slightly proud on the other side, and that will be fine. So that's the filament feeder and everything, all that checked out. Oh, that's okay. Lithium greased up. That's all ready to rock and roll. Then I'll go on to the fans. Now again, the fans are. I live, as I said, I live in Menorca. It's a dusty place. In the summer it gets very dusty, and I get a lot of dust. So all my printers are in a garage, very well sealed garage, I have to say, but it's dust gets everywhere here. You have to dust every single day in the house and everything. So the fans do pick up a lot of crap. Now obviously there's only two fans on here. The cooling fan, the filament cooling fan, filament cooling fan gets really bad. The extruder fan is not so bad. So we'll work on that one first, just so you can have a look. So we're going to turn this over again. Okay. And fingers crossed you can see what we're doing. I will pop photos up as well of everything for you. Okay, so it's just... And hopefully you can see how dirty that fan is there as well. So again, the first thing to do, cotton bud. The first thing I actually do is grab the tweezers and see if there's any long hairs in there that I can pull out. And as I say, this one hasn't been done too long ago, and there's not actually that bad inside there, but I will give it a quick clean anyway. I've had some of these that are really atrocious, so just go the way of the fan, give that a camera. So there's a whole layer of dust, as you can see from this picture. That will show it off even more better for you. And there we go, you can see the amount of dirt that's come off from that. Okay, so now we're just going to do the underside of the blades, because these get really dirty too. Good thing with IPA is you can clean it on use it to clean pretty much everything. Okay, and there you go. You can see that's from the underside of the fans, and that's just from the housing itself. So quite a lot of dirt, and that was only, this one's only been done about 2 months ago. I'm only doing it on this one to show you what's done. So then we can zoom back out, and so that's the side fan done. And now what we're looking at, we've got to do the other fan. Okay. Now this one's going to be tricky to get you to see, but let's see if we can't get you in there. There you go. Now as you can see from that, we have a lot of hair in here. Okay, and as you can see, you can just grab it, and that is how much hair there is, which when you think about it is shocking. That is all that's going to do is affect your ability for the fan to cool. And you can see how much is coming out. And this is just after a couple of months. This was, I would say, probably 3 months since I last done this fan. But because this fan is on all the time, when the printer's working, it's the one that comes out worse. And it didn't look that bad, did it? But look at all this gunk and crap. So this is something, obviously, I think in other countries, countries that aren't as dusty as Spain, then I think you'll definitely not have this much of a problem. But I still think it's something you should do anyway, because this will be the major cause of your fan breaking down. Will be all this stuff in it, because it adds extra weight to it, stress, all the bearings, everything. You know, it's not good at all. And even if you don't give it a full clean, you just do this once or twice a month, or once every 2 months or something, you'll get rid of most of the damage or anything you're going to wear. Now, once I've done that, give it a quick blast, and then from the other side as well. Okay, and that, as you can see, is 100 times better already. And just some of the gunk that's come out. That's just, it's amazing how much comes out of those fans. I remember the first time I did it, I was like, oh my god. So as you can see, that's pretty much done now. So that fan's in tip-top condition again. That's looking good. I've got no problems with that whatsoever. All right, there you go. Okay, so now the fans are done, we can get that back over to here. Another thing I'd say, don't worry about the frame too much. They're pretty robust, these PRUSA frames. They can handle some stuff. It's not warped. Once they're together, as long as obviously any of the screws doesn't come undone. You are laughing. Next, I do all the rods. Now, as you can see from this picture here, all the rods get all this, a little bit of slime and stuff, just where the printer hits its end and all the dust accumulates on the rods, and it ends up pushing it, and you make these rings of dust, which I literally just give it a quick wipe. Don't even have to knead anything, just with my fingers, just to clean it off. Okay, just make sure you get all of it on all the axes. Okay, you'll find that the build-ups are only at the end where the bearings go, where they go as far as the bearings go on either end. Oh, one thing I did forget to tell you to do: take off the the flexible plate. That really shouldn't be on there. Okay, so and then you've got the vertical ones as well. And again, depending on what printer you've got, depends what sort of cleaning you do. But I find I then give that a quick wipe, give it all a quick wipe with a towel, paper towel, all over. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why is he doing that? All that oil's gone, blah, blah, blah. Right, the bearings on these machines are sealed bearings. So any oil you put on the rods, in theory, shouldn't be able to get into the bearings. But I think a little bit of it does, because obviously the oil gets out. And I think that you will get some oil in there. Okay, so I've cleaned the rods. Next, I would normally oil the rods and everything. But what I do first is I give the whole machine a complete dust from top to bottom. So, I mean, it basically is getting in with a air hose. And I don't know if you can see all that dust coming off. It comes off everywhere. It's probably one of the few things that's negative about living in Spain is all the dust. But there's a lot of positives. Right. You can go mad and you can use a towel and everything. I don't need to, because literally I have done this recently, and there's most of it is clean on top, because the dusting, when I do dust, I tend to do the dusting once every few weeks, just to stop it building up on places. Then give the whole everything a go over. Okay, and what I do find, and I hope the most build up I get of dust is actually on the bottom of here. Now I think I've blown it off already, but there's usually an incredible amount of dust on these cables underneath the heat block. And I don't know why, but this seems to collect the most dust than anywhere apart from the fan, obviously. But I've blown it off already, so that's good. All right, so quick look around. She's nice and clean. No problems there whatsoever. So then I'll go on to give the rods a little oil. Now again, you don't have to use, you can use machine oil, light machine oil or anything like that. I use this. This is, it might be whiting out for you, it's 3D Solex. I love this stuff. This is an absolutely amazing oil. Comes in this great little applicator as well, which is like a sponge. So a lot of things with oil, you squeeze the can and it goes, you get far too much on there. What I just do is a little drip, little tab in the middle, like that. Same again. I might do the back. And that's all you're going to need. You don't need any more than that. Okay, same on the bottom ones. And that's all you're going to need in total whatsoever. Okay, literally is, and again, this will last years. Then for the screws here, they don't really need anything because it's all plastic. On the PRUSAs, they're all plastic on the screws. But I have Magnalube, which is perfect for this stuff. And I'll just put a little tiny bit, literally just a dab on each side, up and down, and that's it. So when the printer next goes, it'll just grab that, take it around the screw. But it literally is the tiniest of dabs. Let's have a look. See if I can get you in and you can have a look. See, tiniest of dabs. It doesn't need a lot on this one because these screws don't actually move any metal parts. It's just these plastic. Oh, you can't see that because I'm still zoomed in. It just literally is just these plastic collets that the screws go through. So it doesn't need a lot, and I mean, PRUSA doesn't recommend that you do it, but greasing any moving part cannot hurt whatsoever. Always a good practice to have. And then what I do next is I just check, make sure there's not too much movement. There's always a tiny bit of movement on these PRUSA machines. And that's because of the bearings and the U-clamps that hold the bearings in. But it's expected, every single machine does it, you can't get shot of it, but it's not enough to affect anything. I don't know if you can see that or hear it. It's very, very tiny little amount. And as I say, these are new bearings as well. So just make sure that that's okay, there's no movement on there, there's no untoward movement on any of the others. And just checking to make sure there's nothing loose really. And then what I'll do now is basically I'll go around and I will check every single screw on the machine. So what I'm going to do is going to be a cue music, and I shall do all the screws on the machine. You'll see what I mean. It literally is quite a tedious one, but it needs to be done every now and then for sure. Okay, so I'll get the right size one, shall I? That's a 3. I need a 2.5mm for this. Right, okay, cue music. Right, okay, that is all the screws done, the exterior screws and everything, all done. As you'll notice, there was a few there that were not loose, but they needed tweaking. And that's because obviously a lot of the parts on here are 3D printed. They're PETG, which is good material, but being plastic, it's going to be prone to movement and excesses of force and speed and etc, etc. So, you'll find that every time you go to do these, you'll find there still need just a little tweak, just here and there, not on all of them, just on some of them, and that'll keep going. But you just have to remember that not to do them up too tight, because it will turn the plastic. It is only plastic, but they definitely need a tweak here and there. Now check the bounce as well. My bounce are fine. Just like to put them together gently. You don't have to do it fast because you won't get a proper feeling for it, but just push them slowly. Bounce them nice and tensioned. Then what you want to do is come in with this and just check the grub screws, make sure they're okay, and there's nothing wrong with them. If I get the right size, bloody, so they're okay. Again, you don't want to over tighten these. You definitely don't want to strip the threads on those. Okay, so that's all good. And there you have it. That is pretty much most of it done. Now, once I've done, the bout tension's done, everything's dusted, it's cleaned, it's oiled. There shouldn't be a problem whatsoever with this. What we then do is we go on to the calibration test. Now, what I'll do is I'll plug it back in. Let's get my... So she's all plugged in and ready to rock and roll. Now what you will find is that she will be slightly out of whack compared to what she was beforehand. Only natural, because you have messed around with the machine, you put it on its edges and things like that as well. But I usually find when it comes to calibration, it really is very close. Don't really have to do anything at all. Always hit reset before you recalibrate. So the machine resets itself, not to factory, obviously you don't want to do that. And then it literally is, you go down to your settings. I can't show you these unfortunately because I can't get the camera in close enough. But it's basically down into settings, calibration. You've got the main calibration you can do, which is where it takes you right from if you've built the machine from start to finish. But what I do is I do the auto home. So we need to find the home. Make sure those cables aren't. Okay, and then she's homed. And then you've got quick self-test. And this will just make sure the fans are working, the nozzle's working, all that sort of stuff. So the extruder fan's going now. Print fan is actually on now. I can actually tell how much quieter that is just after giving it a quick clean, pulling all that dust out. It really does make a difference to the noise of the machine as well. I mean, it's just dead quiet. And now it's checking the x-axis, and it'll check the hot end as well. I think it's quite imperative that you do these. Okay, and there you have it. Hot end okay, X, Y, Z okay. This comes up with self-test okay, the nozzle's fine, the heat bed's fine. And there you go, she's all ready for print. The only thing I might do is I might redo the Z height again, just to make sure that I haven't knocked it out of whack at all. But now what I'll do is I'll literally go down to the settings. Oh, quick tip for anyone who's don't knows this, if you press and hold the button, you can increase the Z height. There you go. Which I like to do. Let's get it out of the way. Now the last step of this whole process that I do is I will clean the print sheet with acetone. Okay, so I'll give it a good acetone, which you should do once a month anyway, because it does reactivate the PEI on there, and it makes a hell of a difference. My prints end up getting stuck to it again. Again, this sheet's 6 months old. Still, I've got ones on my Mk3s that are a lot older than that, and well, one's 2 years old and it's still going strong, and it prints 24/7. Give it a good clean. Don't be tight. You should wear gloves with acetone, but I don't with any dangerous chemicals. But you give it. Don't be tight with it. Keep going, and keep going, and it really reactivates that PEI, and you'll find your first difference after this. The first print you'll do after this, it'll be you will be amazed. Now, little tip for you: some people use microfiber cloths. Don't use paper towel, because of the roughness of it. That little bit of roughness makes all the difference. I started cleaning mine with microfiber cloths. I used to think to myself, oh wow, can't get any cleaner than that, can you really? Wrong. What it does is it's too smooth, and it makes the surface too smooth, and I just found prints weren't sticking at all. Once I re-agitated it again with some acetone on the paper towels, it took me ages to work out what was the problem, because all my machines went down at the same time. So it had to be a cleaning issue or a maintenance issue. It wasn't a machine issue, you know. So it was one of my problems. Anyway, so that was acetone, and then I've got IPA, and what I'll do is after I put the acetone on, let it dry thoroughly for a couple of minutes, doesn't take long, then I'll go over with IPA afterwards, because the acetone does leave a little bit of a residue in a way of just, you can see where it's been on the sheet, so I'll give that a really good soaking with IPA, again, which I do after every single print. It gets that much IPA after every single print. And my PEI sheets haven't needed to be changed or anything in 2 years, and they've been printing 24/7 for 2 years, and I've still got the original sheets. I tip my hat to PRUSA and his team who came up with these sheets, because they're absolutely fantastic. And to be honest with you, it's one of the main reasons that I go with a PRUSA, because these things, and I know you can get aftermarket stuff now for most printers, but sorry, these are the dog's dangly bits. They really are. Anyway, so that's it. Then I'll go down and lay a Z layer height test. I've got my own test for that, which I do, which prints out 9 squares all around here, because PRUSA's one that comes on a machine I don't think is good enough at all. But what it does, you can really nail down your thing. Obviously, mesh bed leveling, do seven rows, not the 3 rows that it's standard on there. And that's pretty much it. That is my maintenance routine for the PRUSA Mk3 and what can be done for most other printers. So there you go, that's my maintenance routine for my 3D printers, for my FDMs anyway. Resin printers don't need that much maintenance, to be honest with you. They just need bits changing every now and then. But I think with FDM machines, anything which melting plastic, you need to keep on top of it. I see a lot of things on the forums, a lot of posts on the forums, oh, what's caused this, what's caused that, and there's so many different answers that you've got to try everyone, and it's a process of elimination, as it was for all of us when we first started 3D printing. I'm happy now that if I get a problem, I don't think I've looked online for a problem for a long time. I've pretty much been through the gamut of them, and kind of you get to know what's working and what's not. And the most important thing is when you buy a machine, is get one you can get in kit form. That I think gave me so much more confidence than anything else when it came to maintaining my printer, or if anything went wrong with it. I don't think twice about opening this up, getting into the guts of it and fixing something and trying something, even if I don't know what it is that's wrong. When you buy a printer and it's already made up, you just got to fit the frame or something. There's not really that involvement in it. You don't get to learn how it works. With that, when you build one from kit, especially, that's what I love about the PRUSA ones, you get, I think it's $250 off if you buy it in a kit form rather than made up. Great saving, and you get to learn about 3D printers. When you've got 10 or 12 of them, yes, it becomes a bit of a ball ache, but it's worth it, totally, especially not just for the money alone. So I think a good maintenance regime is probably more important than anything else when it comes to 3D printing, especially with FDMs. I think that where I do my maintenance every month, or I do one every week where I give it a quick spruce. Every 1 or 2 weeks I'll do the nozzle, clean the nozzle out with a thing which takes 2 minutes, and then every 3 to 6 months, depending on when I have a look at the machine, what state it's in, I'll do a full MOT basically, or whatever you call it in your country. But I'll go through, test all the screws, test everything, because even then, I've done this 3 months ago on this one, and some of those screws still needed tweaking on the PETG, where they're still finding a place. It take a year to bed in. I've got a couple here that are about 2 years old, and the screws don't need touching on those. They're in and they're not going to move anymore. But these still bed in after a while, and they still use. So you have to make sure when you've got a new machine, especially when you're using 3D printed parts for all this, like the PRUSAs do, and a lot of printers do, then you've got to understand that they are going to move ever so slightly until they get to their optimal peak position, if you like. But that is my maintenance regime. I think you can't go wrong. There's nothing. There might be something there that I do that other people don't, or this stuff that I don't do that other people do. I'll be interested to hear if any of you guys have got any extra steps or anything else that I need to check. But I'm happy with that. It seems to do fine for me. I don't have any big issues with any of my printers. It's like things like mods. The only mod I've done, I've tried loads of mods, by the way, all sorts of odds and sods. There's only 2 things that I actually do put on my printers, mods that are actually used. One is a heatsink on top of the extruder motor. Really makes a difference. It really does make a difference. This thing used to get red hot, especially when you're doing long prints for lots of hours. It doesn't get chance to cool down properly or anything like that. So a heatsink, the only decision was whether to put it on the front or the back or the top. The front does get hot as well, but the top is a natural way for heat to escape, I think. And these Bondtech ones are so light. They are so light. They're not even 10 grams, so they hardly add any weight whatsoever to, which really is an already heavy hot end. So an extra 10 grams isn't really going to make much difference. The only other thing is a little thing that I keep my SD cards in on top. Apart from that, I've tried lights and all sorts different rail holders, and nothing really works as well as the PRUSA stuff. The fans, I did upgrade the fan shrouds and everything, and the extruder blocks, and the whole hot end when PRUSA brought theirs out. I do those because they're worth it. They work on them more than anyone else, so I'm sure they know what they're doing. But apart from that, I absolutely love these machines. They're easy to build, easy to maintain. As long as you do it regularly, you shouldn't have any problems at all. I haven't had to replace, tell a lie, I have replaced a filament sensor on the second PRUSA I had, which is, it came out when the Mk3 came out, so however old that is. That eventually went, I've replaced that, it's fine now. Apart from that, I haven't had to replace anything, I don't think. I'm trying to think really hard. Have I replaced anything else? Do you know what? I haven't even replaced a fan. I've got spare fans. What I do is every time I buy a new printer, I buy belts and I buy a bit of this, bit of that, bit of everything. I've got enough spares now to build a whole printer. But what it means is if I let one go down, because any downtime costs me money on the printers. So if we've got any downtime, I can fix it straight away, and it's only an hour's work usually at the most. So, but that's it. Thank you for watching and putting up with me. If you made it this far, well done. I am not new to 3D printing. I'm new to doing videos about them. Obviously, I've been doing scale modeling videos for a long time. But the 3D printing is where my interest lies now. So you guys will see a lot more of these coming on. If you do have any questions at all regarding 3D printing, if you're new to it, or you'd like to know, as I say, I do a lot of manufacturing on these, so I do kind of know, especially a lot about the PRUSAs anyway, that's for sure. And I'm just about to break into resin very soon. But if you've got any questions, or if you're thinking about starting, you'd like to know anything, please feel free to ask in the comments. I'll answer all the questions and comments that you put down below as we go. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this. Until the next one, take care. Bye-bye.